Hey there, this is Top Secret, and today we're going to take a look at GIMP. So this is part of a new series I'm going to be working on called Know Your Tools, and I don't know if we'll cover all of GIMP today, but we're going to go over some of the basics, what you can do with it, and how it helps. And we're going to be editing the Papal Spearman, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, from the Charlemagne scenario. You can just find that in Beyond the Sword, Assets, Art, Units, and then there you'll see that. I'll also upload it to the forum just in case you need it. I'm assuming you already have NIF scripts and know how to install that. If not, go to my other tutorial, which I'll put like a little link there too. And we're going to take a look at this guy. First, let's look at him in NIF scope so that we know what he looks like, and then we're going to play around with it. Recoloring, all sorts of stuff. So here's what he looks like in NIF scope before we start. Firaxis made this unit, so there it is. Let's go back to GIMP. Alright, first thing I want to do is just familiarize you with the program. My first recommendation is to go to Windows and unlock the Toolbox. Click that so that you have the Toolbox. That's what we're going to go over first. And make sure Hide Docs is not on. If it is, you can just press Tab. And finally, you want single window mode, or at least I do. If you want to play around with it, go ahead, but I like everything just compact in a window, all good, not a bunch of windows, ugh. All right, now that my preferences are out of the way, let's continue. We'll go over these in a minute, but I consider the Toolbox the most important part. Okay, so when you first load into GIMP, everything is selected. You can modify everything. But these first 5, maybe 6 tools help you select. Actually, I think there's more select tools than I ever use. And some of these tools, I don't know what they do. If I don't, we'll just skip them. You can comment and tell me what they do. All right? But today we're going to do rectangle select first. So let's say, all right, as you know, almost everyone knows bucket fill. Right? It fills it. It's kind of like paint. So let's say we want to make an area more gray. Well, I have whole selection. This will just fill everything. But what if we wanted to make a square patch on his shirt that is more gray, like this part? Well, we could use rectangle select to select it. So you go to rectangle select and then you go back and forth. Next, let's say you didn't get enough. These modes right here, this is replace, so it will just delete it if you do a new one. Next one's add. As you can tell, this video is going to be a little bit long. We'll probably split it. Add puts you there, so it adds more. What if you accidentally got too much? Well, you use subtract. And then occasionally you might use intersect. So the reason I use intersect is maybe I'm selecting a bunch of stuff and then suddenly I realize I only want part of it. What intersect will do is it will keep only what's inside the intersect window. So maybe you accidentally selected some stuff over here. Whoops. If you lose your selection, by the way, Control Z will just bring it back. Let's say you added some over here, but you didn't really want that, but you do want like this part right here. Well, not only can you subtract, you could just intersect, and that will delete anything outside this box where you're intersecting. All right, so that's how to use that. Ellipse is basically the same except for it's round. So you get the point. You can use fixed aspect ratio, by the way. Right here, it says fixed aspect ratio 1:1, and that will give you a circle, or roughly a circle. Let me put it that way. In pixels, you don't really get a circle. So, for example, you could use this to like select a section and then paint inside that section. And when you're painting inside of a certain section, you can't paint outside that section. So this helps you select things so you don't lose it. Free select is most important for this. Like, let's say we want to work on this area of the thing. This is kind of like the bottom of this guy's robe. You can click on different parts and you can play around with it so that you get used to it. But basically everything inside of this will be selected. This is very, 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 very useful because you can select weird shapes without having to use squares. And see, I accidentally selected some transparency, which I don't want to delete. We'll leave the cross in there, so no worries. All right. What is fuzzy select? I don't want to lose this. We're going to keep this section selected later. So let's just add and then we'll Control Z. Fuzzy select selects a certain color and similar pixels, and the threshold tells it what to select. So if you pick a bigger threshold, it's going to cover more area. But here's a little trick. This is just your starting threshold. You can click somewhere and drag to the right to increase the threshold. Look at that. It selected most of his cape. Now, sometimes it's really annoying and it doesn't work, or you need to manually add some stuff. That's why free select is so handy, because you do it. Or if it's selecting too much, oops, scroll to the left and it'll reduce the threshold. All right. Select by color can be useful. I usually find the other two we just talked about more useful, but select by color will select similar colors to whatever you chose. And the threshold tells how similar, but it selects from the whole image. All right, scissors I never use. Foreground select I never use. I'm sure there's something useful for them. Paths I don't use. Color picker is really easy. Let's say you want to pick a certain color from somewhere. Now note that it only picks one color. So to get varying colors, like see how this and then this is darker and then this is darker and then this is darker. You need to add that if you want to make your textures look natural. So you may have to pick multiple colors, or there's other things you can do. Zoom tool, I hardly ever use this. Press Control minus or Control plus, minus, not Control minus, and then Shift plus. So it's just minus and Shift plus will zoom in and out. That's really handy if you want to like zoom up on one section. All right, measure, I never use that. All right, move is handy because you could, whoops. All right, let's say we Control X and Control V. Now we can move our selection around. So if you get a piece that looks exactly like you want, you can move it around. All right. Alignment, I am sure is useful, but I've never used it before. All right. Crop is really, really handy. I've showed how to use this in a couple other videos. The main important one is fixed size or fixed aspect ratio. Aspect ratio, you can do like 1:1 and it will give you a square. You can crop a square out. Whoops, Control Z, Control Z. Fixed size tells it exactly which pixels to do. This is really useful for screenshots and some other stuff. Whoops, I made a size. So if you look, it will not work if you choose a size bigger than the whole image. It will just select the whole image. See, here's a 60 by 60. Can't expand it anymore. Aspect ratio lets you make a ratio and pick. Whoops. There we go. I'm trying not to ruin everything. Okay, rotate tool is cool. You can use this and rotate it. GIMP actually shows it to you right away. It's really, really, really nice. You can see exactly how it's rotating. That's useful if like, okay, I put Gondor flags on some of my Gondor soldiers. Let's say it's rotated 90 degrees from the shirt that I'm trying to put it on. I just come in here, type in 90, and then it would rotate it exactly 90 degrees to the angle I need it to be rotated to. So that's cool. Scale, okay, there's a difference. We've used image, scale image, and canvas size. There's all sorts of different scales. This one scales your layer only. So you can scale. If you use lock, it locks it in. Shear, I haven't ever used before. I'm sure some of this stuff is useful. Flip, I have. Flip flips stuff if you need it to be like exactly mirrored. I'm sure some of these are useful, but I hardly ever use them. If for some reason you want to put text in an image like an X or something or anything, that would probably be more useful if you had some sort of image in mind or some sort of font in mind. Wingdings or UI symbol, those would be handy. This is almost exactly like a normal text thing. Text boxes are really weird in GIMP. You have to merge them down, and they're just, we're not going over all that today. All right, bucket fill. Now, bucket fill seems pretty obvious. You probably used it as a kid on some sort of paint tool or whatever, but it has a few different features. Okay, background fill will fill it with the background color. Let's talk about modes. There's all sorts of modes. You can use a mode to lighten only, and it will lighten it according to the color you have. You can use burn. Burn will darken it, and you can't really darken it based off white. Let's flip to this color. So it'll darken it. Maybe you like that color better. Normal is just good old normal feel. So you can try out all these. Sometimes they make things look really funny. Opacity is handy, okay? If you use 100 on whole selection, it'll just wipe it out. But if you use like 30, you can give it like a gray sheen. So that's cool. We're going to use this feature right here, the opacity, with another one later to do recoloring. And there's another way to recolor. There's like 2 or 3 ways. All right, background color fill will give you the color in the back. You can also just swap them out right here. Pattern fill, they have some preset patterns. Some of them are really weird. I don't always do that. All right, fill similar colors is kind of like the threshold thing. Like it fills colors that are similar to whatever you click on. Fill whole selection. I like to do this more because I can just get the whole section. That's why selection is so useful, and you can like recolor with it. So you see that, like watch this. Now, this is not as handy if you already have a different color on it. So I will explain how to change that in a minute. All right, blend is a gradient. So you've probably seen those occasionally. That can be handy if you want to add a gradient in. Let's get rid of that. You could even do, okay, so this is fun. Like you can do a, reduce your opacity again, and you can do like some weird gradients. Anyway. All right, pencil is exactly what you think it is. You go around drawing. You can even do, again, reduce the opacity and color over. Paintbrush is not as strict. Like pencil is exactly what you see. It will fill in that to whatever opacity you have. Paintbrush like slowly fills in over time as you drag it. It's more like detailed. Erase will erase it. If there's a transparent background, it will erase it to transparency. If there's not, it will erase it to white. All right, Airbrush Tool blows it all over. Ink, I don't usually use. Okay, this tool is extremely, incredibly useful. Let's select a different section. Let's say you want to remove the cross part right here, because you're changing this guy from a palpable spearman to just a generic medieval spearman, and he's not necessarily whatever. Maybe he's not a crusader. So what you can do is clone, okay? Clicking won't do anything. First, you need to set it. So it has a couple sources. You can use their pre-built patterns, or you can use image. An image will, if you hit control somewhere, then start clicking, it will drag it, watch up there, see, and copy it. Okay, that's ugly, right? But here's what's useful. Get right beside where you're going to copy over. And look at that. Okay, what if you have something like this? Well, get to the colors you want, click around. Okay, if you click around, it will keep the same. But if you start doing this, it'll do this. Okay, if you want to do a big section at once, but get ready to use Control Z. Find a starting place, like right here. Now press Shift, and it will like do a dragged copy of this. So like from here up to here in the same exact manner. All right, so what did we do? Okay, so let's look here with the clone tool, because I kind of want to show you. So here it was all in white because it was transparent. Now if we export this by pressing Control E, that will give us the DDS thing, export, replace. You want to use compression BC2 DXT3. That's exactly what you want to use. So it won't change it. It'll still look right. You don't want to use mip maps. No mip maps. All right, let's reload this. Okay, we didn't get it all. There's a couple at the bottom or the top, but see how that works? If you look right here, there's a couple colors that look off. So here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go over these. There's the transparency that we want to get rid of. And his belt did not match exactly, so we'll just copy some belt over. Whoops. All right. And we copied too much over. Let me zoom out, show you what we're doing. So we're copying around and down here. Control E. Once you've outputted it to the right place, it will just output in the same place. And then let's copy shirt so that his shirt is proper. All right, look at that. We got rid of it. Now we probably need to get rid of that one up there too. So check this out. You see how useful clone is? You can just like eliminate like something you don't like there. And just boom, it's gone. And it looks nice. So sometimes like you can even draw from other images. Like if we have a copy of this and we want to copy the metallic part, for example, you can press Control on this image and then you can go over here to this image and start copying. All right, but we're not going to go there. All right, so we did all that. So that's clone. Heal is similar, but it keeps the colors while copying the brightness, although sometimes it doesn't. All right, so let me kind of explain this. You like this clothy thing and you want to put it here. Well, it will give you kind of that same clothy feel, but with these colors underneath it. That's kind of what heal does. It's kind of weird sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't work, but just try it out. Perspective clone, I used it like once. It's really annoying to set up, so we're not going to go into that. Okay, blur and sharpen. All right, what does blur do? Let's zoom in here to kind of get this. This is pixelated, but it'll work. All right, blur, and here's the rate down here. You can reduce the opacity too, but blur kind of mixes all the pixels together, makes them really blurry. What does sharpen do? Well, it makes them stand out more. So you'll see it kind of brightens them up, but it also just makes them just harsher. So you can play around with that. Blur is especially useful like when you have two colors and you want to blur them together. You can also use smudge. Smudge drags the colors. So let's say right here, we copied over right up here. So we're going to smudge some of those colors up there, and that'll kind of make it look a little bit more natural. All right, and then lastly is dodge burn. Dodge burn is really handy, especially if you select a certain section. Ugh, I knew selecting that would be hard. Let's just select his shirt right here. All right, we're going to use dodge burn. Whoops, I still have that up there. Let's use replace. See, you got to watch your replace and stuff. All right, dodge right here, pressing controls. Well, it's supposed to switch it. It doesn't. All right, dodge makes it lighter. There's 3 levels. You can dodge highlights, and this increases how much. Like if you drag this way up, it gets it really bright. You can dodge midtones, which is like middle colors, and you can dodge shadows, which will color the darkest parts only. Then you can burn, which is the opposite, as you probably guessed by now, and it makes it darker. It reduces the brightness, reduce the midtone. So you can see you get like a really different look depending on which ones you do. See, that's burning highlights. This is burning shadows. So look at that. That's just a lot different. So play around with it, see which ones you like, and you can reduce the exposure too to see like, oh, that made it a little like browner almost. This one makes it grayer. I mean, it's still only changing the blackness, but it does it to certain pixels by using this range stuff. All right. So that's most of the tools. There's a couple things about layers and that stuff over here, but we're not going to go into that. And channels. We're just doing the basics of knowing GIMP. All right, couple other things. One is recoloring, okay? So we got some of this stuff over here. File is pretty self-explanatory. If you use any other program, you want to export, not save. Save is GIMP's method. Export gives you DDS. All right. Edit has a couple of different things like cut and paste. I don't use it that often. What is under here is preferences. And you can play around with these. There's a bunch, but if you can just look through them. All right, select is based on like that select thing, and there's a couple other ones. The main ones in here are all. So let's say you want to select everything. Press Control A. That selects everything. Do you want to select nothing? Press Shift Control A. Or do you want to invert your selection? So let's say I've been editing this part and I want to edit everything else instead. Press invert. And this is one of my favorite parts. Now everything else is selected. Watch this. We'll use draw. See, I'm drawing over everything except my selection. My other selection. Because I inverted it. You can select by color. I forgot what floating section does. I think it like cuts it out and lets you drag it around. Anyways, so that's what floating does. All right, view is mostly just zoom. Like literally, that's most of it. There's some useful things in here maybe, but I'm not going to go through them all. Okay, image. There's a couple things. Let's go over some of the basics. Zealous crop will cut everything down and get rid of like blank space around the middle. So be careful with it, but it works. All right, duplicate gives you a copy of the image. We don't want it. All right, this is the one we've been messing around with. These are both the same. Mode, we're not going to worry about that. It's color profiles and stuff. Transform, you can flip here as well or rotate by perfect ones. All right, canvas size. So this is the actual size of the image. Like, let's say you want to increase it. This will give you more room, okay? That's not scaling the image, but the canvas behind it. Does that kind of make sense? Scale image scales everything, and you can unlock this chain to make sure if you want to get different sizes. But remember, it'll be stretched. So like that scaled it up to 138. But remember, if you scale it up, unless it's an SVG file, it's going to be blurry. All right. You can merge visible layers if you have a ton of layers for whatever reason. This image by default has 5 and it's working fine. But sometimes you need 1 layer. So that's usually under layer, which you use merge down. Merge down will let you smash 1 layer into the layer below it. But you got to be careful because if you do that to like text or something, you can't edit it with the text tool anymore. It becomes just pixels. All right, stack lets you go up and down between layers, okay? Mask, I haven't used those, so we'll skip that. Transparency, you can add the alpha channel. If you remember from our decal video, sometimes you need to use threshold alpha, especially on flags. All right, transform is here again, and it works only for the layer instead of the image. All right, scale layer is really useful, and where is layer to image size? I'm blanking right now. Let's see. Oh, right here, duh, is in front of my face. All right, layer to image size. That will let you scale a layer. Okay, so layer, let's just kind of show you what a layer is, okay? Let's reduce this. This will kind of show you what it is. Okay, so this yellow line is the layer. So this part is the only part we're using, okay? And you can smash them together. It's mostly used for text, but sometimes other things. It's useful because you can keep like everything on one layer and then go up and down. If you don't understand that, don't worry about it. But sometimes you'll need to change the layer to the image size. So go to layer and click layer to image size. It'll stretch the yellow and black lines out to the edge. Now we're going to put it back. As you can see, you have to be careful with those things. If you have no idea what's going on there, don't worry about it. Okay. All right. Colors. Yes, this is where we learn how to recolor stuff. What happened to our selection? Okay, there we go. All right. So as you know, you can color stuff, but what happens if you colored something like, let's say if we use bucket blue, let's say we want to make this blue. And we use opacity 19. Okay, we're starting to make it blue. Or if this is somewhat purple, please forgive me. I'm somewhat colorblind between blue and purple. So anyway, so let's say you add some color. I think it's blue though. Let's see our colors. Yeah, it's mostly blue. If we reduce this red, we'll get full blue. All right, we made it blue. I want to make it light green now, right? Okay. Oh, that's like not working. It's just making it bluish green, right? Well, that's because you had color in it. So what do you do if it has color, but you want to keep like the different brightness of the pixels? That's where we're going to use, and we need to color this up some anyway to show you how to do this. Colors, and go down. We'll skip some of these. The ones I know are colorize and desaturate. You can also use invert if something's black to change it to white, but it gives you weird results if it's not black and white. All right, so desaturate will make everything gray. So do this and pick, I usually pick the brighter one, but in this case I wouldn't because that would make it too bright. I'll pick average. Now it resets it back to black and white, which gives you the right darkness, and then you can use fill to fill it in and add some color back. And you can like increase the colorization or whatever. So now we could change it to green. So check that out. You can recolor it. There's another way though. Once you desaturate, go to colorize. Now watch this. This gives you full access to all the colors. So this is the different use from Roy G. Biv. You know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. All the way through. And then the saturation tells you how much. So this is way more red down to no red. Right? Okay. And then lightness adds more lightness to the whole thing or more darkness to the whole thing. So see at negative 100 and 100, it's black and white. But in between it like darkens it. So let's say we want to change this to some sort of orange. This isn't going to change the whole thing, right? Just this shirt. But we'll put it like right in there, and we want to make it like darkish. So press Control E. Oh, whoops, this is the wrong one. Whatever, we'll just override it. And we're going to delete this because we changed it. All right. And now we recolored it. So colorize is really, really useful. The other reason colorize is useful is it literally saves all your presets. So here's all the ones I've been using from different times for whatever color thing I was working on at the moment. So colorize is super useful. Now we're almost done because I'm not going to talk about everything today. We'll do another video on tools. It's just the toolbox basically. If you can't find the toolbox, there's some more in here. Same good old ones we've been using. Lastly, okay, you can rotate colors for just to rotate specific colors. That's in here. We'll go over that next time as well. And then filters has some really, really, really useful stuff, but that's for another video. So this has been the basics, the main two ways to recolor something. I know that's what a lot of people want to do. So the main things I do are recolor things and clone things. Like, let's say I want a metallic look on the front of his shirt right here. Let's clone this. So you may clone, and since I don't have much room to work with up here, I'm not really cloning much different. I'm not like dragging it around. So boom, and now he has a metal shirt instead of a white one. Or if you want to color it, desaturate, and then you can use colorize to colorize it. Look at that. Or you can use opacity fill. So that's pretty much it for now. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will check out some more stuff about GIMP later. If you have any questions, just let me know in the thread.